I have a question for you guys that I keep seeing a lot of it in the chat. I know it was a discussion in our Discord as well. The decision for Joel to play last night versus tonight. I guess, where are you guys at on that?
I think part of it had to do with not having him travel. If he's going to be on the West Coast trip, not having him travel, seeing those three play together, period, getting that opportunity, making again, playing a bad team where you can go out there and maybe work on some things to right yourself and right the team, right the trio overall, to put together some minutes to work on some things against a bad basketball team. So I think that played into it. And then the fact that you know that, or think that because he didn't play tonight, and they are going to play Monday at home before the trip, that he will most likely play on Monday and then play. And then look, if he would have played tonight, it still would have been a day off, a Sunday off before he played against San Antonio on Monday, and then Wednesday play against the Boston Celtics on Christmas Day. I think that, I mean, I see the logic. I saw it last night. I had no problem with it. I also felt like they would compete a little bit more, especially with the performance that we saw from both George and Maxey on Monday. Charlotte is a different opponent. I'm not saying that. It's just what you saw from the two of them against Charlotte, where maybe they had some juice together that they were working on that would carry over to this game and then get the necessary help from the rest of the guys that are out there.
I've seen this team lose to so many bad teams. I'm not taking even a Charlotte team without LaMelo and Brandon Miller. I'm not taking anyone for granted.
I would agree with that.
You are at a point where you have to bank some wins. Like, you were 3-14 2 weeks ago. You're sitting here miraculously, just a couple games out of a play-in spot. You have got to bank some wins. And look, I know I think there's two reasons people were coming at Embiid playing tonight instead of last night. One of them, to try to compete for 2 wins. I get that. But I think if you ask me realistically, if you had to rank out the possibilities, 2-0 over the stretch, 1-1 or 0-1, or 1-1 or 0-2. With Embiid sitting out last night, playing tonight, I think the most likely scenario is 1-1, which is where you ended up anyway. Second most likely scenario, I think 0-2 was more likely than 2-0. So bank that first win, get at least feeling a little bit good about yourselves, get a win in the standings. I understand it, but I think, like I said, going back, I think people wanted to, you're trying to get that second win or trying to beat a good team so you feel better about yourself. There will be plenty of times to play good teams throughout the remaining, however, 2/3 of the season. You don't have to try to force that in now. Get the win and then move on from there. I understand. I think there's an argument either way. Yeah. I want to bank the win, though.
Yeah. Andre says they beat Charlotte without Embiid. What is he talking about? Well, they beat Charlotte when Paul George played really well. You know who did not play well last night with Joel Embiid?
Paul George.
At least Paul George. He didn't play well tonight either. He did not play well as an offensive, workhorse guy who can be one of your co-leads of the team. And I think what people are not factoring into the equation here is if Joel doesn't play last night and they schedule him to play today, Paul George is probably not playing tonight. I would bet you good money that he would have sat out tonight's game. Now, you can say Paul George played poorly tonight, so maybe that would have been good. But when you look at the rest of the role players and who would have had to step up, you're then asking one of, Caleb Martin, Kelly Oubre, Ricky Council, one of these guys, one of them would have had to play way above expectations, and the other guys would have had to hold a pretty decent floor themselves. And so you end up in a scenario where you very well could have gone 0-2. In fact, I probably would have bet on them going 0-2, simply because even though Charlotte is bad, and even though they have beaten them several times before last night, it's very hard to beat a team 4 consecutive times in any season. Season sweeps don't happen a lot for a reason. So I get why they did it. I understand why people are mad about it. I come back to Joel should be on the floor as soon as he can be back out there, right? Because this is less for me about the individual game and the win and all that than he needs to be building up as many reps with these guys as possible. Get those in, as Devon said, work on some of the things, work on plays with guys. He talked last night at his locker about, the chemistry isn't there with Paul George. The only way you're going to get that is if they play more games and they work on more stuff together. So while I get the angle that people are coming from, we all do. All of us, no one's sitting here dismissing the idea of Joel playing tonight versus last night outright. It's not a good enough contention for me to like really care or get angry about.
And I'll add this to it because, Dre asking that question, Dre is not wrong to ask the question, as you guys just pointed out. But here's the other thing too, Dre and everybody else, is that they have 9 wins. They got the 9th one last night. So, Derek, to your point, you need to stack wins. Also, they are a 9-win team. There's no guarantee that no matter who's in their uniform on the floor, that they're going to beat the opposition. They have lost to Toronto.
Pistons,
They have lost to
Toronto,
Detroit.
Yeah.
They have lost to all of these basketball teams.
You don't
So
get to take anybody
you
for
don't
granted.
No, you're not good enough. In years past, we can say, yeah, they're good enough. They're going to go out there and beat this basketball team.
Yeah.
This season,
And
through the
last
27
night, by the way,
games,
even with Joe, was a single-digit game in the fourth quarter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Through these 26 games, they are not good enough. So, sure, you want to see him we want to see him every night. And number one, they've already told us that he's not playing back-to-backs. All right, so you don't play him against Charlotte. And sure, I'm sure even Bet365, the odds makers would be like, yeah, the Sixers should win by 6 points, especially with the other guys out. We've seen it so many times in the NBA, and especially this season with this particular basketball team, that they are not good enough to just assume, like we did early in the year when they started off slow, and we like, they got this one tonight. They'll get on track. They'll be fine. You assume, and then they go out there and lose the game. And then we're talking about a different angle of why they lost the basketball game and why he is playing or not playing. They are not good enough, Dre. So if they choose to stack that W last night against Charlotte, so be it. They have 9 wins. Guess how many games came? 4 against the Charlotte Hornets. 4 against the Charlotte Hornets.
Almost half of their wins.
Exactly.
Man.
So, Dre, they have to just stack the wins. They're going to play Cleveland again. They'll play these good teams, as Kyle talked about, and we'll see if they beat them when he and Paul George are out there on the floor with Tyrese Maxey together to see if they can actually get it done. So, I agree with you guys that you have to do it. I understand the argument, Dre, of play tonight versus last night. But if they would have lost last night to the Charlotte Hornets, you know what we'd be talking about? Why didn't he play last night to pick up that win? And oh, by the way, Paul George stunk would be the headline of last night for the conversation. So it's going to go either way. They still have a lot of basketball left to play. We just don't know what version is going to be on the floor. And that's why you can't assume that they're going to beat a Charlotte Hornet team without Joel Embiid on the floor.
We all silly like the mayor.